So I just read a collection of Greek tragedy. This volume contains 3 plays by the 3 sort of big names in Greek playwriting. We have Agamemnon by Aeschylus, Oedipus Rex by Sophocles, and Medea by Euripides. Now, apologies if I get the Greek pronunciations wrong because it has been many, many years since I took an ancient Greek class. So we'll start with the first one, Agamemnon by Aeschylus. This is chronologically the first one that was written. So we're talking early 5th century BC in Greece. The play starts with Clytemnestra, this woman, wife of Agamemnon, awaiting her husband's return from the Trojan War. Now the Trojan War is still going on. She's sort of standing looking out over the water, out towards Asia, towards Troy, waiting to hear word from this war that's been going on for 10 years. And then I don't want to say in a Lord of the Rings style because I think Lord of the Rings would have got their idea from this, but we'll say in a Lord of the Rings style, the beacons are lit. Beacons from Troy, from mountaintop to mountaintop, and it describes which mountain and which mountain across the entire Aegean to Argos, the Peloponnese, are lit. And that's our opening scene, is Clytemnestra seeing this, the beacons are lit, and because the beacons are lit, that means that Greece has won the war, and that her husband Agamemnon is coming home. And she's, overjoyed, the war's finally over, he's gonna finally come back, the Greeks are victorious, and so on. There's a bit of a time jump and Agamemnon returns. And Clytemnestra greets him and goes on about how faithful she's been to him and how excited she is to be back, and there's nothing better than a woman that waits faithfully for her husband at home. And it's almost like she doth protest a bit too much. She's going over the top with how, maybe this is just me knowing the events of the play, but it does feel like she's sort of overdoing it a bit, and how happy she is that her husband's back. And so Agamemnon, he's thrilled to be back. He shows Clytemnestra he's brought this concubine, essentially a sex slave, this Cassandra, a Trojan princess, I believe, and to be his sex slave essentially, and gives her over to Clytemnestra and is like, show her around, get her into the household, whatever. Clytemnestra's kind of like, oh, okay, sure, whatever, husband, great, you've got a new young toy. And poor Cassandra, when she's left alone, she starts lamenting sort of the horrors and the deaths of this household, both the past and the future. It's revealed that Apollo had sort of come on to her, and she kind of rejected him. And so because of that, Apollo gave her the gift of prophecy, but also cursed her that no one will ever believe her. And so she's lamenting the horrors and the tragedies that have befallen this house, the house of Agamemnon. And she reveals that she knows the story of Agamemnon's father, Atreus, who had fed the children of Thyestes, his brother, to his brother. So he fed his brother's children to him as sort of revenge for Thyestes sleeping with or seducing Atreus' wife, and Atreus being Agamemnon's father. So basically Agamemnon's dad had killed and fed Agamemnon's cousins to Agamemnon's uncle, and that was the whole thing. I think Thyestes had then killed Atreus for it, but then Agamemnon and his brother Menelaus had then attacked and killed Thyestes. All kinds of family tragedy. But anyways, Cassandra just sort of reveals that through her sort of oracular vision, which is kind of a weird because oracle means eye. She knows about this. And the chorus that's there in the background is kind of like, oh, that's kind of crazy that you know all this stuff. But I guess kind of everyone in Argos knows this story. And then she starts prophesying about the future. She's saying that all this bloodshed and tragedy that has happened in the past in this house, there's going to be more to come. Agamemnon is going to be killed. And of course, because of her curse, no one believes her. So the chorus is like, what are you talking about? He's not going to be killed. He's fine. He just got back. He's a victorious king. But then, of course, our next scene is Clytemnestra stabbing and killing Agamemnon and Cassandra. And she goes out and tells the chorus, the chorus is in this play is the sort of elders of Argos, and sort of revels in it, like, yeah, I killed him and I'd do it again. I'm so pleased with myself for killing him. They're like, how horrible are you, woman? Like why would you do such a horrible thing? And she kind of does it for 2 reasons, as a mother and as a wife. The first reason, as a mother, is because 10 years ago when her husband Agamemnon was sailing to Troy, the ship sort of got stuck at a certain place. The winds were against them, and it was the fault of Artemis. Because of some beef Artemis and Agamemnon had, Artemis said, hey, sacrifice your daughter to me. I'll change the winds and then you can continue on to Troy. And Agamemnon was like, oh, geez, I really don't want to kill my daughter, but also I can't just go back to Argos because we swore this oath to go free Helen from the Trojans. And okay, fine, I'll kill my daughter. So Agamemnon kills his daughter and of course Clytemnestra's daughter as well. So Clytemnestra is getting revenge for this murder of their child, but she's also doing it as a wife, sort of as a wife spurned, because she kills Cassandra, this young princess that her husband has brought in and is using sexually, and is sort of like cheating on her, basically. And those are the two reasons she gives for killing Agamemnon and Cassandra. And so Cassandra's prophecy comes true. She knew this was coming, but of course no one believed her because of Apollo's curse. And if that wasn't enough, we have Aeschylus, who is another cousin of Agamemnon. So he would have been Agamemnon's father, Atreus, his brother, Thyestes, his son, one that wasn't killed and eaten by Thyestes, this guy Aeschylus. And so it's revealed that he had seduced, during this 10-year Trojan War when Agamemnon was away, he had seduced Clytemnestra and brought him over to his side and used her as revenge against the sons of Atreus for this past tragedy and continued family feud, which is kind of a weird extra element to it. It could have just been Clytemnestra like taking things into her own hands and operating as her own individual with her own sort of needs for vengeance and justice. But this addition of Aeschylus, it kind of, to me, it feels like it's adding a sort of a woman can't operate on her own, and there needs to be a man behind the scenes, and it makes Clytemnestra almost a tool being used by this man Aeschylus. But anyways, the end of the play is the chorus sort of mocking Aeschylus and saying like how he's hiding behind this woman and how he's a coward and how he got a woman to do his dirty work for him and stuff like that. So that's Agamemnon by Aeschylus. We then have my favorite of the three, Oedipus Rex by Sophocles. Now, a note on the name. The name itself really bothers me. Why are we calling it Oedipus Rex or Oedipus Rex? Oedipus is a Greek name, great. Rex is a Latin word. So why is the English translation of this title a Greek and a Latin word? The mix of the two is so weird. It should be like Oedipus Tyrannus or just Oedipus. I realize that they can't call it just Oedipus because there are quite a few other myths and stories and plays called Oedipus, but using Rex, it should just be Oedipus the King or King Oedipus. Anyways, I like, what are we doing, classicists? Why are we mixing these two up? So the play starts with the chorus, the citizenry of Thebes. We're in Thebes, right? The citizenry of Thebes lamenting this plague and sort of destruction and this bad times in Thebes. And they call Oedipus their king. He comes down. He's like, what's going on, guys? And they're like, there's a plague. Why can't you help us with this plague? And he's like, well, actually, I am. I sent my brother-in-law, his wife's brother, Creon, to go to Apollo and ask the oracle at Delphi, what can we do to solve this plague? And he's like, any second now, Creon should be back. Oh, look, there he is. Creon, what's up? What are we going to do to get rid of this plague? And Creon's like, yeah, so the oracle told me that we need to get rid of the murderer, the one that had killed the previous king, Laius. They're like, yeah, he's still kicking around. We gotta exile or banish him. We gotta solve this murder mystery of who killed the previous king, Laius. And Oedipus is like, well, geez, didn't you guys solve this murder already? And they're like, no, this was a while ago. We were dealing with that whole Sphinx thing. And it's revealed that that's how Oedipus became king. He's not the son of Laius. He just showed up to Thebes. Thebes was under the sway of the Sphinx, also known as the winged enchantress, also called the riddling bitch in this one, which I thought was very funny. That riddling bitch. And the Sphinx asked of Oedipus this riddle: what walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 3 in the evening? And Oedipus is like, why, man, because we crawl on all 4s when we're a child, then we walk on 2 as an adult, and then we have a cane when we're old, so there's 3. And the Sphinx then throws itself off of the wall and dies and frees Thebes, and Thebes is like, great, Oedipus, you're now our king. Also, here's our queen, who's a widow because our king's dead. Marry her. And so he marries the queen and becomes king of Thebes. But the previous king, Laius, had been killed. He had gone out to visit, I think, the oracle at Delphi and was set upon by robbers and murdered. But because of this riddling bitch, they didn't get an opportunity to solve this murder. So Apollo's telling them, hey, this plague is because you guys need to figure out who done it and get them out of your city. So Oedipus is super gung-ho. He's like, we got to figure out who did this. Asking everyone, no one knows anything. But then they're like, hey, that old blind seer, Tiresias, he's totally going to know what's up. He's super great. He's blind, but he's got the gift of prophecy. We'll call him in. So they call him in, and Oedipus is like, hey, tell me what you know. What's going on? Tiresias is like, no, I'm not telling you. I'm not. And there's a huge back and forth, and he's finally like, fine, I'll tell you, but you're going to hate it. It was you, Oedipus. You killed the king Laius. And Oedipus is like, freaks out, and is like, what? How dare you? There's no way I did. And then he's like, you were set up by Creon, my brother-in-law. He wants the throne, and he's trying to get back at me, and you're blind, so you can't actually see. This is all, you're just a fraud. And then Tiresias sort of curses Oedipus and says like, you think I'm blind, well, you're going to be blind by the end of this. Makes references to him like being the father and brother to his own children, and the murderer of his father. And Oedipus is in a huge rage at this point. And then Creon shows up and he's like, yo, Oedipus, what's going on? Oedipus is like, I found out that you sent this prophet to try and make it look like I killed the old king, and you're trying to take my throne. How dare you? I'm going to banish you from my kingdom. Like, and just freaking out at Creon. And Creon's really good about this. He just sort of like tries to de-escalate. He's like, no, man, what are you talking about? Like, I'm the brother of the queen. People come to me for advice. I've got lots of money. I can sort of do whatever I want. I've got all that royal privilege, but none of the responsibilities. He's like, why would I want to be king? I'm living it up great here. And Oedipus is still pretty ticked off, but then his wife, Jocasta, the queen, comes in. She's like, what is going on? What are you yelling about? And so Oedipus tells her about this oracle and what has been told. And she's like, oracles, don't listen to oracles. Look, when I was with Laius, the old king, we had an oracle that said that our child was going to kill Laius. And that didn't happen because Laius was killed by robbers at this certain location. And she describes the location. And then Oedipus kind of like freezes up and he's like, wait, what? When? Where did this happen? At this place? At this time? Oh crap. And then he reveals that before he had come to Thebes, he was at this specific location at that certain time, and he met an older man there with a bodyguard, and they had a bit of a confrontation where the old man in the carriage wouldn't give way to Oedipus, and Oedipus wouldn't give way to him because Oedipus is the son of Polybus, the king of Corinth, so he sort of sees himself as an important dude. And the altercation escalates to the point where Oedipus then goes and kills the old man and all the bodyguard. And so it seems like this is Laius, and he is the one who has killed Laius. And so he's like, I gotta banish myself. I gotta get myself out of Thebes. Like, I've sworn an oath that as the king of Thebes, I'm going to get rid of whoever had murdered the previous king, and if that's me, that means I have to leave. But then he sort of reveals that he can't leave because the whole reason he's in Thebes and not in Corinth, where his father is king, is because of this event back in his youth when someone was questioning his parentage and being like, you're not actually the son of the king. And so Oedipus had gone to the oracle at Delphi, I think it's the oracle at Delphi. Everyone goes to the oracle at Delphi. And instead of telling him if he's truly the son of Polybus or not, the oracle says, you will kill your father and marry your mother. And so terrified that that's somehow going to happen, he's fled Corinth, and he doesn't want to go back to Corinth because he's worried that somehow this could happen. And then at this time we have a messenger from Corinth come in and say, hey, Oedipus, terrible news. Guess what? Your father has died. Polybus, the king, has died. And Oedipus is like, well, great. That's fantastic. He's dead. So now the prophecy can't come true and I will never kill my father. Excellent. And the messenger's like, well, sure. Okay. I thought you'd be upset. You seem to be really cool about this. But Oedipus is like, well, there's still that thing about my mother. I can't go back to Corinth because what if I accidentally marry my mother? Which I think it's more like sleep with your mother instead of marry, which I guess that could accidentally happen, like in the dark or something. And the messenger's like, oh, you don't actually need to worry about that because the queen of Corinth and Polybus, they weren't actually your parents, like by blood. And Oedipus is like, what? Wait, what? What are you talking about? He's like, you were just a baby and they couldn't have kids. So I gave you to them and they raised you as your child, but you're not actually their child. So don't worry about this prophecy. And he's like, wait, what? Well, then whose kids am I? Because this prophecy says I'm going to kill my father and marry my mother. Where did you get me from when I was a baby? And the guy's like, oh, this shepherd. Hey, Jocasta, do you know this shepherd? And Jocasta's like, no, don't. Let's not go into this. Don't dig into this. And Oedipus is like, no, let's bring the shepherd in. And Jocasta's like, please don't do it. They bring the shepherd in, and the shepherd's like, no, Oedipus, I don't think you want to know. I'm not going to tell you. And Jocasta's like, don't tell him. And Oedipus is like, look, I'm the king. What is going on? Tell me. And the shepherd's like, well, Laius and Jocasta had this prophecy that their son was going to kill the father. And so they had a kid, and they gave it to me to go kill it in the wilderness. And I had riveted its leg to sort of a cliffside where it was supposed to be exposed to the elements and die. But it wasn't in me to let a child die that way. So I took the child, and Oedipus, by the way, means swollen foot, and that's why from the being riveted to the cliff. So I took the baby and gave it to this guy who went to Corinth and gave it to the king and queen of Corinth. So actually, you are the son of Jocasta and Laius. Oedipus. And Oedipus, it dawns on him, as it has dawned on Jocasta just a bit earlier, that the prophecy has come true. He killed his father Laius, and he has married his mother Jocasta and has had like 4 kids with her. And so Oedipus, totally freaks out at this revelation. He goes in to sort of kill Jocasta, but she's already hanged herself, can't deal with this. And so he takes some brooches off her clothing and stabs his eyes out repeatedly until he's like blood gushing from his eye sockets. And so remember the blind prophet Tiresias had said that, you're going to be blind by the end of this. And so that's what's happened. Oedipus has blinded himself in his sort of total agony and anguish. And it ends with Creon becoming the new king of Thebes, and Oedipus asking Creon to like look after my kids / siblings, and Creon finally banishing Oedipus, like, hey, you murdered our old king, this plague is because of you got to get out of here. So Creon, even though he was a chill, cool guy that was like, I don't actually want to be king, he actually got to become king. I don't think that was his ulterior motive in setting this whole thing off. But you could sort of rewrite this play and make it like, because it all starts with Creon going to Apollo and finding out that you need to solve the mystery of who killed Laios. Anyways, that's how it ends. A fantastic one. I really like that one. The character of Oedipus feels like a very real person, like not that bright, but like a real go-getter. We got to solve this mystery. We got to figure out who did this. And then there's the intricacies and how it all comes together with the big revelation at the end, and it all makes sense. And it's like one of the greatest twists in history, I would say. So the last of these is Medea by Euripides. This one's quite a bit different. So this one would have been, I think it's written a bit after Oedipus Rex, but Sophocles and Euripides were contemporaries, whereas Aeschylus was sort of the generation before. But they're all sort of early to mid 5th century BC in Athens. So Medea picks up on the story of Jason and the Argonauts after Jason has returned. So background to this, just very briefly, Jason builds a ship called the Argo, gets a bunch of heroes on it called the Argonauts, and they sail off to modern-day Georgia from Greece. And I'm not going to get into all the reasons and stuff, but they have to get this golden fleece from this king in this like Asian far-off land. And Aphrodite gets the daughter of this king of Colchis, the place is called Colchis, Medea, to fall madly in love with Jason. And so she betrays her family. I think she ends up killing her brother. And she's like quite a magical person. I don't want to use the word witch, because that's got negative connotations, but she uses her magic and her potions to do everything she can to help Jason get the fleece, and then she flees and goes back to Greece as Jason's wife. But this play opens with Jason and Medea now in Corinth. They had to flee Iolcus, where Jason had been from, because Jason's brother was there, and Jason was supposed to be the king, and that's why he went to go get the golden fleece to take over the kingdom from his brother. But then his wife Medea got his brother's children to kill him by tricking them, and anyways, they had to flee, so they're sort of on the run exiles, but they've come to Corinth. And this play opens with Jason going to marry the princess, the daughter of the king of Corinth, Creon. Different Creon from Oedipus Rex. And so Medea is livid. Everything she's done, everything she's sacrificed, she's betrayed her entire family. She's done so much for Jason because she's been so in love with him. And as soon as they get to Corinth, he ditches her for like a hot young new princess. And so she's freaking out. She curses Creon and the royal family and Jason and wants them all to die. And the chorus in this one is the women of Corinth, which is really cool. That this play is very centered on women. It's very women focused. I don't want to say it's feminist because it was written by a man. I think that's really important to note. It was written by a man in one of the most patriarchal cultures in human history. But I think you could rewrite this or view it. I'm sure there's been tons of books written on sort of a feminist perspective of this play, because there is a lot to Medea, and I think a lot of people could sort of see her perspective and see where she's coming from. And a lot of the play talks about things like how Medea would rather fight in a battle, which was a man's thing, rather than give birth, and how the trials that women go through are so much worse than those that men go through. And there's a lot of gender relations and women-centered stuff in this play, which is really cool. But you do have to realize this was written by a man, and a lot of the lines and a lot of the things about women are very misogynistic, as was the style at the time. So Creon shows up and hears this this Medea just screeching and freaking out and threatening his household. And so he's like, okay, I banish you. Like, look, Jason, he's marrying my daughter now. You're old news. You're obviously a threat because you're threatening my household. You gotta leave. And she's like, no, please. I don't actually mean it. Don't actually. He's like, no, I don't trust you. We're not safe around you. You gotta leave. And she's like, oh, please, just give me one day. Like, she's got 2 kids, 2 sons that are Jason's. She's like, oh, I gotta make plans. Give me the day to sort of sort things out and then we'll leave. And he's like, okay, fine, you can have one day. And then Medea says to the chorus, like, he gave me one day, that fool. If he would have kicked me out, all my plans would have been ruined. But now that I have this one day, I'm going to kill everyone. And the chorus is kind of on her side. Like, she explains, like I said, all of what a woman has to go through and everything, and how the man can just set her aside, and that's supposed to be fine. And the women are like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Screw this guy. Jason's a horrible person. And after Creon banishes her, Jason then comes in, and he's very like, it's not mansplaining, but he's like, woman, calm down. Like, what are you talking about? Like, and she's like, you horrible person, you betrayed me after all I've done for you. Like, travel with the Argonauts and that whole voyage and everything that you're famous for, you only accomplished because of me, and you dare turn me out now? Like, and Jason's very much like, calm down, you actually didn't do much for me. I mean, I appreciate what you did do, but really it was the gods and like Aphrodite and stuff that helped me out, not really you. It was actually Medea that did all the work. All you women care about is sex, and if you're sexually satisfied, then you're fine, but as soon as I take another woman and then you don't get sex anymore, you're all up in a tizzy, which is like crazy Jason. Like, just don't even go there. But he's like, you don't understand, I'm doing this for you. Like, I'm sleeping with this hot young woman for you and the kids, because we're exiles, we have nothing, we're poor, and so if I can marry the daughter of the king, like, it's gonna set us up. It'll be great. And I mean, yeah, you're gonna have to get used to that I'm sleeping with someone else, but think of the kids. It's gonna be for the kids. Which the whole thing is just crazy, but you can kind of see like someone actually justifying their actions in this way. And so Medea is just like beyond livid, right? Understandably, I'm totally on Medea's side for 90% of this play. And then this Athenian guy comes in, and we won't get into his story much, but basically Medea explains her story to him, and he's like, oh, that's horrible. Geez, Jason, what the heck? What a trash bag. Hey, you can stay with me in Athens. And she's like, oh, great. Can you swear an oath that you'll never turn me out and you'll protect me in case, Jason or someone comes after me? And he's like, yeah, sure, of course. I swear the oath, whatever. And so now she has an out in Athens, which is kind of ironic because I think Athens at this time was very sort of, you had to be an Athenian to have any sort of rights or any respect. And it's super patriarchal as well. Women had very little rights. So this Asian woman, Medea, having Athens as her safe haven is kind of ironic in a way. So Medea then formulates her plan. She calls Jason back in and she's like, oh, Jason, you were so right. I've calmed down now, and I can see that you marrying this like teenage princess is actually going to be really good for me and our kids. So I'm so sorry. And look, can you maybe talk to Creon or talk to the princess and get them to revoke the banishment on the kids? Like, I know I'm going to have to leave because I'm in the old news, but think of our children. Like, look, tell you what, Jason, I'm going to go get this beautiful crown and this beautiful dress, and I'll give it to the kids, and they can take it in and give it to the princess. And that way she'll see that, like, bygones are bygones, and maybe she'll let the kids stay. And so that's what she did, but she's poisoned because she's like a magical sort of sorceress. She's poisoned the dress and the crown in the belief that it will kill the princess. Her father Creon will come in and touch the dress and also die, and then Jason, when he's like sleeping with the princess, will get the poison and also die. It doesn't quite go according to plan. The girl gets the dress and the crown on, and she's like dancing around and twirling and showing off this dress. And then it's a very descriptive and gruesome scene where the dress sort of clings to her flesh and then starts to melt her flesh, and her flesh is dripping off of her bones, and her head catches on fire, and she's screaming and frothing at the mouth. And her father rushes in, Creon, the king of Corinth, and sort of grabs her and starts kissing her, and then sort of the dress sticks to him, and the same thing happens to him. And so then Creon and his daughter are killed. Jason, however, manages to live, and this is all related to Medea through a messenger, and she's like, hey, describe to me how they died, because if they died in agony, I'm gonna be like so thrilled. And like I said, he explains how they died, and she's like, oh, wonderful. But then she, to me, takes it a step too far, where she's like, all right, now I gotta kill my kids. And you're like, what? Why do you gotta kill your kids? She's like, I gotta get back at Jason, and if I kill my kids, then that'll really freak Jason out, and then he's really screwed. And the chorus, the women of Corinth, are like, do not kill your own children. Like, you love them, you want what's best for them. Killing them is gonna hurt you as much as it's gonna hurt Jason. She's like, yeah, but I kind of really want to screw over Jason. And she goes back and forth. She's like, no, I can't kill my children. Everything I'm doing is for my children. And in the end, she decides, you know what? I'm just going to have to do it. And so she gets a sword, runs in, and there's a scene where we can hear her children screaming as she's running and killing them. Jason arrives, and he's like, where's that Medea? She killed my wife. She killed my father-in-law. The whole palace of Corinth is in an uproar, and they're coming for her and for our kids. So, like, where are our kids? I got to get them to safety. And the chorus is like, you don't need to worry about the palace of Corinth coming for your kids. And he's like, why? And they tell him that Medea's killed them. And he's like, what? And then he goes full, like, it's a role reversal of at the start of the play when Medea is freaking out that her husband has betrayed her, and Jason's kind of smug and confident and victorious, like, look, I'm marrying this new woman, calm down, woman, it's gonna be great, I'm not doing it for us. Role reversal now, he's freaking out, like, I've lost everything, my bride, my children, my position in society, everything is gone. And Medea appears at the top of the sort of the roof of this building on this chariot pulled by winged serpents with her dead children in her arms, and she has this magical chariot because she's the granddaughter of the sun god Helios, and it's a way so that Jason can't get to her. And there's another final exchange of these two just hurling abuses at each other, and how, like, how could you kill our children? Like, that hurts you as much as it hurts me. And she's like, no, it hurts you more, and I'd rather see my children dead than you smiling. Or, yeah, it's brutal. And then he's like, can I at least bury my children? She's like, no, I'm flying away, and I'm going to bury them somewhere, and don't even worry about it. Then I'm going to live happily ever in Athens because I've got this, like, safe haven, and even though I'm a child killer, they're going to let me live there. And that's how it ends. So, yeah. I think it's my second favorite one. The twist and everything is not as good as Oedipus Rex, but this one it feels very different. Like I said, a lot of the focus on women and as Medea as the sort of the heroine of the story, but also one that sort of takes it too far and becomes the villain. Really neat. This book also contains some excerpts of Aristophanes' Frogs, which is a comedy, not a tragedy. It's the story of Dionysus, who it was written just after Euripides had died and Sophocles had died, like in real life. And so Dionysus is sitting around, he's like, man, there's no good playwrights anymore, and all the good ones are dead. And there's like mention of, what about this guy and this guy, who I imagine would have been contemporaries still writing plays while this play of Frogs was written. And Dionysus is like, nah, they're nothing. They're not as good as Euripides. You know what? I'm going to go down to the underworld and I'm going to get Euripides back because I am just hankering for another good play. And so Dionysus descends into the underworld and finds this contest underway where Aeschylus, who has been dead for quite a while, sort of has the throne as the greatest playwright. But Euripides, who has just shown up, is challenging him to that. And Sophocles is sort of in the wings where he's like, I'm not going to compete against Aeschylus, but if Aeschylus loses, then sure, I'll battle Euripides for the title. And it's a comedy, so we have these two, Aeschylus and Euripides, commenting on each other's work, play, and literature and whatnot. And it's interesting as sort of a work of literary criticism written like 2,500 years ago, shortly after the creation of these really famous tragedies. I didn't get a lot of the humor and stuff because I just don't know as much of the sort of in-jokes, and I'm not as familiar with the content or the character or the style of these playwrights. I mean, this is all I've read from them, right? But imagine if you did know, or if you were someone at the time watching this play, it would be very, very funny. Like, I'm trying to think of a modern day example. Like, this is going to sound crazy, but like if J.K. Rowling just died and then someone wrote a story about J.K. Rowling and Tolkien in the afterlife. I know it's weird to put those two on the same level. They're miles apart, but I'm trying to think of really famous writers where those two had to have an argument about the merits of their work in the afterlife. It'd be something like that, and there'd be lots of references that people would understand. But anyways, there's just excerpts of that, Frogs by Aristophanes, in this one, which it's cool that there was sort of literary criticism of this style in sort of a very comedic, very, very humorous fashion way back then. That's one thing that always amazes me with classical works, is that people are just people, and people are always people in space and in time. You travel anywhere, or you read anything about the past, and people are the same. The human condition doesn't really change that much. Context can change us, but there is this this core, what it is to be human, that seems universal. This also has a short section on Aristotle's Poetics and sort of a philosophical essay on tragedy and the importance of tragedy and whatnot. But the main thing is those three plays: Agamemnon by Aeschylus, Oedipus Rex by Sophocles, and Medea by Euripides. So those are tragedians. Bye.